Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So, I saw Iron Lung, and I'll just go ahead and tell you what my expectations for this movie were. So, I went in kind of thinking that it wasn't going to be very great. So, I wanted to go see it because I'm a Markiplier fan. I mean, anybody who watches Markiplier loves Markiplier, and they probably wanted to see it too. So, I was going to go in, and I was going to support the film, and I was just going to see how he did. It was one of those movies I was going to see regardless of how well it was received, but it is one that I kind of thought it was going to be like a FNAF movie situation, you know? I thought it was going to be fans really love it, fans of Markiplier really love it, but for the most part, it isn't that great, like objectively. And so that's kind of the mindset I went into it. I went into the theater thinking, hey, this is probably not going to be anything too stellar, but you know what? I'm going to sit down and I'm going to support the film anyway and hopefully have a good time. And let me tell you, the man Markiplier himself, he delivered way more than he had any right to. He cooked way harder than he had any right to. I went in thinking this was going to be just kind of alright, just because YouTuber movies as a whole just don't have that great of a reputation. But he went in and he did a great job for the most part. I have some gripes with it, but I'll get to that in a minute. So I just do want to highlight like just how great that this movie was successful. Like, I mean, a completely independent film like this, and it's popped off as well as it has. That's just so great. You'll love to see it, and I'm so happy for the guy. Like, I'm so happy that it popped off. Now, the movie itself, I'll start with the positives. Mark himself, like his acting, is really good. It's shockingly good. It's might be like the best aspect of the movie, maybe. You could definitely argue that, but I kind of had a feeling when I was watching it, it would be almost like watching like a friend like personally, or like a family member, and like watching them act in something. Like it'd almost be like, hey, they might be doing a good job, but you almost still see that as like you can't get past them being like someone you know. And I kind of worried that it would be something like that. Like even if he did give a good performance, which I don't even know if I was fully expecting that. But even if he did give a good performance, I didn't know if I was going to be completely sold. Like I wouldn't be able to move past that. And maybe for other people that would be a problem, but for me, it was great. Like I didn't have a problem with that at all. Like he sells all the scenes so well, and considering he's like pretty much the only actor you see on screen for 90% of the movie, that's a good thing. Like he sells it so well. Like any scene where his character is like having a mental breakdown. He's like breaking down in tears, where he's like getting super angry, and he just does a great job of like conveying it. You like see it so well on screen. Like one of my favorite parts of the movie is just his facial expressions. Like for example, the one scene where his like oxygen goes down like one for like the first time, and you just see it on his face. He's just like, "Bro, are you kidding me?" Like you just see the sheer look of just both like panic and fear and also just kind of anger at like the whole situation. You just see all of this on his face. And his facial expressions throughout the entire movie just sell like how he's feeling without him having to say a word. It's just he's really good. He might honestly be the best part of this movie and how well he acts. Like way better than I expected. So big hats off to him. The second thing I really want to compliment is how this movie looks, like the direction and like the cinematography. I mean, considering the entire movie takes place in like a submarine, I mean, I realize you kind of have to get creative, but he genuinely does like a very good job in this film, or whoever the cinematographer was. Like it looks good. There's so many good angles in this movie, and it definitely does highlight like the claustrophobia of the situation. There's a lot of good like close up on like Mark's face and like the sweat and like the condensation. You really realize like just how hot it is in that submarine, and then like when the blood starts stripping off the walls, like it just looks really good. And like there's so many like cool shots in this movie, especially like I know this sounds weird, but like one of my favorite parts in this movie is like in terms of how it looks is when you can't really see anything. Like when the ship's power goes off and like you can't see much, and he's like having to use the light on the camera or whatever so he can see, and he has to keep pressing it. Like it's really good, and like it's really unique how it emphasizes on what you can't see and how that kind of plays into the kind of the atmosphere of the whole situation. It is a very solid film in terms of its presentation all around. Like the acting is good, it looks good, and the vibe of it I think is captured very well. But just the sheer hopelessness and dread of the entire situation, like it'll leave you on the edge of your seat for sure. Like you definitely are just like, oh my gosh, how in the world is this man? You go back and forth between like, how in the world is this man gonna get out of it? And then there's like a glimmer of hope. You're just like, oh, maybe he might be able to pull it off, but then you kind of go back to, nah, this man's cooked. Like he doesn't have a chance of getting out of here. So it does such a good job with how like it's tension building and everything, and for the most part, like there's segments of this movie that I just really adore. For example, like the whole final sequence I really love when the submarine is like flooding and everything. Like I think it's really cool, and like I love the detail that like the blood that like gets through the submarine like and gets on him, like it like boils his skin. It's almost like acid. Like I think it's a really cool detail. I do wish they maybe established this a little bit earlier in the movie, because by the time that we realize like what this is doing to his body, he's kind of already cooked. So it's like, well, the tension of what this does to him isn't that high. But in the very end, when he has to like go into like the shaft in the ship and it's like flooded with blood, and you're just like, oh, I mean, your first reaction is, oh, that's really gross. I can see why you wouldn't have you wouldn't want to do that if it was just normal blood. But then you realize, oh wait, this stuff is like ruining his skin, like ruining his body, and he has to like go down there like completely submerged in it and just getting it all over his body. It's just burning his skin and everything, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like that is so bad. It's so terrible, and like that's such a terrible, well, not a terrible detail. It's a great detail in this context of the movie of just like, wow, this situation just keeps getting worse and worse. It's like you got the government or whoever who just doesn't care about him, who won't save him for anything. You got the oxygen depleting, you got the giant fish outside, and now you got the blood that's just ruining his skin. Like every part of this movie is just kind of miserable of just putting this man through like the worst possible things. But it's so entertaining. It does such a good job of like I said, just the sheer dread and just hopelessness of everything that's happening around this guy. Like every second you're just like, wow, can this guy get a break? And the answer is no. He's just cooked the entire movie. So it's very good presentation wise, and it is way stronger in that department than I ever thought it would be. However, there is a couple things I have a problem with. For one, it is not the most faithful adaptation, which for the majority of the movie, that's fine. Like, I mean, if it was a complete faithful adaptation to the game, it would just be him sitting at the screen or whatever for like 2 straight hours until like the very end, and that would get very boring very quick. But there are some things that I definitely kind of wish that they stuck a little closer to the game. For example, probably the highlight of the game, like its big moment in the game, is the slow, tense building, like the very slow, tense build up to like the jump scare at the end. Like the entire game, that's where its fear factor comes from, is you're wondering, oh, is something about to happen to me? Like, what's about to happen to me? And then at the very end, like at the peak of just worry of what's going to happen, you got, boom, get hit with the jump scare, and then hard cut to credits. That's how Iron Lung is, and that's definitely like the highlight of that game. It's like the most memorable part of that game, other than the concept itself. And they just don't do that in this movie. The final sequence in this movie is great, with the flooding and everything, and I think it's really cool. But a part of me does wish that they had something similar. Like it's not a very scary movie at all, I'll say that, and like it doesn't really replicate the feeling of in the game of like, oh, what's about to happen to me, and it has the jump scare at like the very end, and I kind of wish they did that with the movie, like the slow, really tense build up, and then boom, that happens, and then hard cuts to credits. Like that would have been really cool to see it like translated into the movie. What they do is still good, but it's almost more of like an action sequence per se. I use the term action lightly there, but that's kind of what it is. And it definitely kind of ruins the quote unquote horror aspect of this movie, and I will say that is something that this movie is really lacking in. It's labeled a horror movie, but it's not scary at all. It can be kind of tense at times, but even then, like I said, I don't think it replicates the tension from the game super well. But it's still, it's not scary at all. If you're going for some thrills here and there, when it gets spooked, it's not a very good movie for that. But another problem with this movie, and this is kind of a problem I have with the game too, is the whole emphasis on the lore. So in the game, there's like a whole lot of lore about like the Quiet Rapture and like all what happened with all the space stations and everything and why they're going down there. And it's all through that one optional computer thing in the corner. That's where the bulk of it is. So it doesn't really affect the game that much, but it's been something I've had mixed feelings about since they've added it to the game, because I feel like it kind of ruins the simplicity of the concept. Like, I think the hook alone of guy in submarine in blood ocean is good enough. Like, I think the concept alone is strong. Like, I don't think it really needs anything else. I think the nice simple concept is good. It works well for the game. But when you start adding like all this lore, I think it kind of ruins a lot of the simplicity of it. Like, it puts like everything happening is like so much grander, is like so much bigger than like the story that you're in, that it almost kind of ruins the stakes a little bit. Like, it feels almost less personal, I guess I would say it like that. But in the context of the game, it kind of reminds me of like what they did with the Backrooms at one point. Like, when the Backrooms was just a near infinite thing of just walls and like the normal Backrooms, maybe some monsters in there. Like, that was really cool. I thought that was really cool. But then they tried to do like all this lore about the multiple levels and just how it keeps on going and how there's like a million entities and a million different floors. When they did all that mess, the Backrooms kind of lost its charm. Like, when it was a much simpler concept, I thought it was a lot cooler than what it kind of turned into. And that's kind of how I feel about Iron Lung as well. I like it more when it's simple. And so in the game, it doesn't matter too much because you don't really interact with the lore very much. You just play the game. But in the movie adaptation, there's a much bigger emphasis on it because, I mean, this is a 2-hour movie. We need a plot. And I don't particularly like it. I mean, like I said, I understand why they took a lot of liberties changing from the game into the movie, because what they do fixes the movie. Like, it fits a movie storyline much better. But it makes a good chunk of the movie just, I want to say, a little weird. Like, I mean, Mark's character just starts tripping heavily, like halfway through, and is about stuff that I don't really fully understand. This is one, if you do not know the lore of Iron Lung at all and you go and watch it, you'll probably be pretty confused. I mean, I kind of knew it going into it, and I definitely know more after I watched it, but like a good bulk of this movie, it would be like conversations or flashbacks to stuff I had no idea what was going on. I was like, what in the world is happening right now? And it puts a much bigger emphasis on like what they're doing down there and like the importance of it all. But I think I would have liked the story a lot more if it was just this guy down here like taking photographs in like this super dangerous area for like no reason at all, or at least not a reason we know. Like, I think it kind of takes away from the stakes a little bit when you're like, oh, he's down there for this big grand reason that the government has sent him down here, like he's uncovering something that will change humanity. I think it's when you don't know that and it's just crappy government sends person to dangerous planet for some like minor reason, it feel like it represents like the crappiness of the situation a lot more when it's not for some grand reason. And when it's just something simple and it doesn't really matter and the main focus is just this guy in the submarine and he thinks there's something out there, I think it's a lot more interesting. When it's not him just completely tripping out and it has like some weird, I don't even know, some weird mystical wumbo jumbo. I don't even know if that's the right word to describe it, but when it's a much bigger storyline, I think the stakes just kind of feel out of whack. Like, it just loses its fear factor, and I think it kind of loses its tension a lot more when you frame it much when you frame it differently and try to make it more what's the word? Cinematic, I suppose. Maybe not cinematic. Just trying to make a bigger deal than it is. I think its simplicity is lost, and that's a complaint I have with the game too. But it's definitely way more relevant in the movie since they framed the movie around this lore a lot more, and it's definitely recognized more. So that's something I'm not the biggest fan of the story. And when watching this movie, the story I think does kind of fall apart for me a little bit in the second half. But that is just personal taste. I imagine there's some people out there who really like the lore, and I do think it's interesting. I just don't feel like it matches the setting super well. I feel like this is lore for something for like a different series. I don't really feel like it fits Iron Lung super well, but that's just my take. But like I said, for the most part, this movie is really good. I'm not the biggest fan of the story, but I do think in terms of presentation, in terms of just how it frames its sequences, it's really good. It like Markiplier's really good in it. It's shot super well. It is way better of a film than it has any right to be, and I would highly recommend it. If I had to give it a rating, I'd probably give it like a 7.5. It's not quite great for me. Like an 8 is great for me, but it's really good. It's really good. And I know a 7.5 might sound a little low, but I'm a little 7.5. I think is pretty high. That's a decent score for me. That's a good score. But yeah, I would recommend it, and I think that's it.